The Mafia boss heard knocking at midnight. A soaking wet boy stood at his gate, trembling but refusing to leave. They humiliated my mom. She's crying. What the boss didn't know, this one knock would force him to face a past he'd buried, a debt he never repaid, and a fight he thought he'd left behind. The storm hit the city, like God's fist. Giovanni Marino stood at the window of his study, watching lightning split the sky over his estate. Rain hammered against bulletproof glass. He swirled whiskey in his crystal tumbler, thinking about the shipment that should have arrived 3 hours ago. Someone was stealing from him. Someone always was. Then came the banging. Not at the front door. At the iron gate, half a mile down the driveway. Giovanni checked his watch. 11:47 p.m. Nobody knocked at Giovanni Marino's gate past midnight. Not unless they had a death wish. His phone buzzed. Carlo, head of security. Boss, we got a situation. Talk. There's a kid at the gate. Maybe 7, 8 years old. Soaking wet. Won't leave. Keeps saying he needs to see you. Giovanni's grip tightened on his glass. A kid?
Yeah. Alone.
No car, no adults.
Just.
Showed up in the storm. This was wrong. Everything about it screamed trap. The Caruso family had been testing his borders for months. Sending a child would be exactly their kind of sick move. Bring him in, Giovanni said. Search him first. Check for wires, explosives, anything. And Carlo, keep your gun on him until I say otherwise. 5 minutes later, his study door opened. 2 of Giovanni's men dragged in a small, trembling figure. The boy's clothes clung to his skin, dripping puddles onto the Persian rug. His dark hair was plastered to his forehead, and his lips had gone pale from the cold. But his eyes, brown, fierce, desperate, locked onto Giovanni without fear. That's when Giovanni felt it. That strange pull in his chest he hadn't felt in years. Leave us, Giovanni said. Boss, we haven't cleared him yet. I said leave. The guards exchanged glances, but obeyed. The heavy door clicked shut. Giovanni set down his whiskey and studied the boy. 8 years old, maybe. Skinny. Bruises on his knuckles like he'd been in a fight. You know who I am? Giovanni asked. The boy nodded. Then you know I could have you thrown back into that storm. Or worse. Giovanni leaned against his desk, arms crossed. So tell me why you're here, and make it quick. The boy's jaw trembled, but he forced the words out. They humiliated my mom, his voice cracked. She's crying. She won't stop crying. Giovanni's chest tightened. Who did? Bad men. They came to our bakery. They broke everything. They hit her, the boy's small hands curled into fists. They said if she doesn't pay them, they'll come back and do worse. She told me to hide, but I saw everything. I saw them push her down. I saw her bleed. The room went cold. Giovanni took a slow step forward. What's your mother's name? Elena. Elena Rossi. The name hit Giovanni, like a bullet. Time fractured. Suddenly, he was 23 again, bleeding in an alley with 2 holes in his chest, and a young woman with flour on her apron was pressing towels against his wounds, whispering, stay with me, don't you dare die. She'd hidden him in her bakery's basement for 3 days while his enemies searched the streets. She'd asked for nothing in return. When he recovered, he'd tried to pay her. She'd refused. I don't want your blood money, Elena had said. Just promise me you'll do something good with your life. He'd laughed at that. A week later, he'd killed the man who shot him and taken over his territory. He never saw Elena again. Until now. How did you find me? Giovanni asked quietly. My mom has a box under her bed. Sometimes when she thinks I'm asleep, she cries and looks at an old newspaper clipping. Your picture was in it. She circled your name. The boy wiped his nose with his wet sleeve. I stole money from her tip jar and took a bus. Then I walked. Nobody would tell me where you lived, so I asked people where the biggest house in the city was. They pointed here. Smart kid. Giovanni crouched down to the boy's level. Up close he saw it clearly now. The shape of the eyes. The stubborn set of the jaw. The way he stood his ground even when he was terrified. "What's your name?"
Luca.
Luca. Giovanni tasted the name. "How old are you?"
7.
Almost 8". 8 years ago, Giovanni had gone to that bakery one last time. Elena had been closing up shop. They'd talked. One thing led to another. He'd left before dawn, telling himself it was better that way.
Cleaner.
He'd been a coward. Now, looking at this boy, his boy, Giovanni felt something he hadn't felt in a decade.
Rage.
Pure, focused, righteous rage. "The men who hurt your mother," Giovanni said slowly. "Did they say their names?" "One of them did. The big one with the scar." He said, "Tell Elena that Salvatore Caruso owns this street now." There it was. Salvatore Caruso. That arrogant little rat who'd been pushing into Giovanni's old neighborhoods, thinking the king had grown soft. Thinking he could take whatever he wanted because Giovanni had been focused on bigger business, larger territories, international deals. Thinking Giovanni had forgotten where he came from. Big mistake. Giovanni stood and grabbed his black coat from the rack. He pulled out his phone and texted Carlo, "Bring the car."
Now.
Full crew. "What are you doing?" Luca asked. Giovanni buttoned his coat and checked the gun holstered under his arm. "I'm going to see your mother. Are you going to hurt the bad men?" Giovanni looked at the boy, at his son, and something ancient and violent woke up inside him. The part of himself he'd buried under business suits and political favors. The part that had clawed his way out of the gutter with bloody knuckles and a sharp knife. "Luca," Giovanni said quietly, "I'm going to do much worse than hurt them. But first, I need to make sure your mother is safe. Come on." As they walked out into the storm, Giovanni made a silent promise to the woman who'd once saved his life. Nobody humiliates Elena Rossi. Not while Giovanni Marino still breathed. The bakery looked like a war zone. Giovanni's convoy pulled up to the East Side neighborhood just past midnight. 3 black SUVs, engines rumbling like beasts. The street was dark except for one flickering lamp and the glow from inside Rossi's bakery, or what was left of it. The front window was shattered. Glass glittered on the wet sidewalk like broken diamonds. The wooden door hung off its hinges. Someone had spray-painted a message across the brick wall, "Pay up or burn." Giovanni stepped out of the car, buttoning his suit jacket. Rain soaked his shoulders immediately, but he didn't care. Luca scrambled out behind him, but Carlo caught the boy's arm. "Stay in the car, kid. That's my mom in there." "I know," Giovanni turned, his voice softer than Carlo had ever heard it. "But let me talk to her first. Alone. 5 minutes. Then you can see her. I promise." Luca's face twisted with worry, but he nodded. Giovanni walked through the broken doorway. The smell hit him first, yeast and sugar, mixed with something else.
Blood.
His eyes adjusted to the dim light from a single bulb hanging by exposed wires. The display cases were smashed. Flour covered everything like snow. Loaves of bread had been stomped into the tile. The ovens in the back were still warm, meaning Elena had been baking when they came. Then he saw her. She sat in the corner behind the counter, knees pulled to her chest, one arm wrapped around her ribs. Her face was turned away, dark hair covering her profile. She was humming something, a lullaby, broken and quiet. "Elena." She stopped humming. Her body went rigid. Slowly, she turned her head. When she saw him standing there in his expensive suit and cold eyes, her expression didn't change. She just stared, like she was looking at a ghost. "You," she whispered. Giovanni took a step closer. Now he could see the damage. Her left eye was swelling shut. Split lip. Bruises forming on her cheekbone. Her baker's apron was torn, spotted with blood. Rage burned through him like acid. "Who did this to you?" Elena laughed, a hollow, broken sound. Of course he would find you." She pressed her hand against the wall and tried to stand, wincing. "I told him not to. I told him to stay hidden. He was terrified for you. He's 7 years old, Giovanni. He shouldn't have to be terrified. Her voice cracked. He shouldn't have to knock on the devil's door because his mother got beat up by thugs. I'm not the devil. No. Elena's eyes blazed despite the pain. Then what are you? Because the Giovanni I knew wanted to do something good with his life. The man I see in the newspapers runs half the city's crime. So which one are you? The words cut deeper than any knife. Giovanni moved closer, carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. Tell me what happened.
Why?
So you can add it to your collection of reasons to kill people. Elena wiped blood from her lip. I don't need your help, Giovanni. I never did. You're bleeding. I've bled before. Not like this. They stared at each other. 8 years of silence pressed between them like a wall. Finally, Elena's shoulders sagged. The fight drained out of her. Salvatore Caruso, she said quietly. He came 2 weeks ago with 5 of his men. Said this neighborhood belongs to him now. Said I need to pay protection money, $500 a week. Giovanni's jaw clenched. You refused. I barely make $500 in profit. If I pay him, I can't pay rent. Can't feed Luca. She looked down at her flour-covered hands. So tonight he came back to make an example. His men destroyed everything while he watched. He grabbed my face and said, next time, I won't be so gentle. Giovanni's hands curled into fists so tight his knuckles turned white. Elena noticed. Don't what? Whatever you're thinking. Don't do it. She finally met his eyes. I've spent 8 years keeping Luca away from your world. Away from violence and blood and men who solve problems with guns. If you go after Caruso, it won't end with him. It'll be war. And war always finds the innocent. He put his hands on you. Lots of men have put their hands on me. Elena's voice rose. I've dealt with drunks, thieves, abusive customers. I survived all of it without calling the Mafia for help. I'm not the Mafia. Giovanni stepped closer, his voice dropping to something dangerous. I'm the man who owes you his life. And nobody touches you without answering to me. Elena's breath caught. For a moment, she looked like the young woman who'd saved him in that alley. Scared but defiant. Breakable but unbroken. Luca is outside, Giovanni said. He needs to see her alive. Elena's face crumbled. Oh God. He saw me like this. He saw everything. He's stronger than you think. He shouldn't have to be strong. He's a child. He's our child. The words hung in the air like a gunshot. Elena's eyes widened. Giovanni watched her face cycle through shock, denial, then resignation. She'd known he would figure it out eventually. You left, she whispered. You disappeared. I know. I never asked you for anything. I know that too. So why now? Why come back after 8 years? Giovanni looked at the destroyed bakery, at the woman who'd once shown him mercy when he deserved none, at the life she'd built and the son she'd raised alone. Because he knocked, Giovanni said simply. And I finally answered. Giovanni brought Luca inside. The boy ran to his mother, crashing into her arms so hard she gasped in pain. But she held him tight anyway, burying her face in his wet hair, whispering apologies he didn't deserve to hear. I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry you saw that. It's not your fault, Mama. Luca pulled back, wiping tears from her cheeks with his small hands. The bad men did this. Not you. Giovanni watched them from the doorway, something twisting in his chest. This was what he'd missed. 7 years of bedtime stories and scraped knees and birthday candles. 7 years of his son growing up without knowing his father's name. Because Elena had wanted it that way. Because Giovanni had let her. Carlo appeared at his shoulder. Boss, we should move them. If Caruso finds out you're here, let him find out. Giovanni's voice was ice. Get a cleanup crew. I want this place restored by morning. New windows, new door, new everything. And post 2 men across the street. Rotating shifts. Nobody comes near this bakery unless I approve it. Carlo hesitated. Boss, with respect, this is Caruso territory now. If we It's my territory. Giovanni turned, and Carlo actually stepped back from the look in his eyes. It's always been my territory. I was just kind enough to forget that for a while. Salvatore needs a reminder. Yes, sir. As Carlo left to make calls, Giovanni walked to where Elena sat with Luca. The boy looked up at him with those familiar brown eyes that mirrored his own. Mama, is he going to help us? Elena's jaw tightened. Luca, go upstairs and pack a bag. We're leaving tonight. Leaving? But this is our home. It's not safe anymore. We can't just run away. Luca's voice rose with a child's fierce logic. If we leave, the bad men win. You always told me we don't let bullies win. Elena opened her mouth, but no words came out. Because he was right. She'd raised him to stand up, to fight back, to never let fear make his decisions. And now she was telling him to run. Giovanni knelt beside them. Luca, can you give us a minute? Wait by the door. The boy looked between them, confused, but obeyed. Once he was out of earshot, Giovanni spoke quietly. You can't run from Caruso. Men like him, they see running as permission. He'll find you wherever you go. Then what do you suggest? Elena's voice was bitter. Let you start a war over a bakery? This isn't about a bakery. Then what is it about, Giovanni? Your ego? Your reputation? It's about the fact that you saved my life, and I never repaid that debt. Giovanni's voice dropped. It's about the fact that I have a son I never knew, and he just watched his mother get beaten in her own shop. It's about... Don't. Elena's hand shot out, gripping his wrist. Don't you dare make this about love. You had 8 years to come back. 8 years to check if I was okay, if I needed anything. You made your choice. You're right, the admission seemed to cost him.
I did.
I chose to stay away, because I thought that's what you wanted. I thought I was protecting you from what I am. And what are you, Giovanni? He met her eyes. A monster. A killer. Everything you were afraid I'd become. He paused. But I'm also a father. And no son of mine will grow up watching his mother bleed, while men laugh. Elena's grip loosened. If you do this, if you go after Caruso, there's no going back. Luca will know who you are. What you do. He already knows. Giovanni glanced at the boy by the door. He walked through a storm to find me. He knew exactly what he was asking for. He's 7 years old. He doesn't understand. He understands that his mother needed help and nobody else would give it. Giovanni stood. I'm not asking your permission, Elena. I'm telling you what's going to happen. Tomorrow, this bakery will be fixed. Caruso will receive a message. And you and Luca will be safe. What kind of message? Giovanni's smile was cold. The kind that reminds people why they used to fear my name. Elena stood too, wincing at her ribs. She stepped close, staring up at him. I saved your life once because I saw something good in you. Something worth saving. If you do this, if you become the monster again, that man I saved dies anyway. The words hit harder than any punch. Giovanni wanted to argue. To tell her that monster had always been there, just wearing a better suit. That the man she'd saved in that alley had killed 17 people before she found him, and 50 more after. But looking at her, at the woman who'd asked for nothing and given everything, he couldn't. Instead, he walked to the door where Luca waited. The boy straightened up, trying to look brave. Giovanni knelt down to his level. Up close, he saw the fear buried under all that courage. Saw the way Luca's hands trembled even as he held them steady. Luca, listen to me carefully. Giovanni put his hands on the boy's shoulders. Tomorrow, men are going to come and fix your mother's shop. They work for me. Don't be afraid of them. Okay. And nobody, I mean nobody, is going to hurt your mother again. I promise you that. How can you promise? Because, Giovanni said quietly, I'm very good at keeping promises. Especially the dangerous ones. Luca studied his face with surprising intensity for a child. Then, slowly, he asked the question that would change everything. Are you my father? The bakery went silent except for the rain. Giovanni heard Elena's sharp intake of breath behind him. He should lie. should protect the boy from the truth. But when he looked into those eyes, his eyes, he couldn't. Yes. Luca nodded slowly, like something finally made sense. I thought so. You have the same hands as me. And Mama cries when she looks at your picture. Giovanni's throat tightened. Are you going to hurt the bad men? Luca asked. Yes. Good. The boy's voice was hard. Too hard for 7 years old. They deserve it. Giovanni squeezed his son's shoulders gently. You're going to be okay, Luca. Both of you. I swear it. Then he stood and walked out into the storm without looking back. Because if he looked back, he might see Elena crying. And if he saw her crying, he might actually become the monster she was afraid of. The conference room at Giovanni's compound smelled like cigar smoke and expensive cologne. 7 men sat around the mahogany table at dawn, each one representing a piece of Giovanni's empire. They'd been summoned with a single text, emergency meeting. 6 a.m. Don't be late. Giovanni stood at the head of the table, still wearing yesterday's rain-soaked suit. He hadn't slept, hadn't showered. His knuckles were bruised from punching the wall of his study after leaving the bakery. Gentlemen, he began, his voice quiet but absolute. We have a situation with the Caruso family. His consigliere, Dante, a gray-haired man who'd served Giovanni's father, leaned forward. What kind of situation? The kind that requires a response. Boss, Dante said carefully, we've had an understanding with the Carusos for 2 years. They stay south of 10th Street, we stay north. It's been profitable for everyone. The understanding is over. The room shifted. Men exchanged glances. Marco, Giovanni's lieutenant, young, ambitious, hungry for power, laughed. Actually laughed. What's funny? Giovanni's eyes were ice. Nothing, boss. It's just... Marco leaned back in his chair, smirking. We're calling an emergency meeting because Salvatore Caruso roughed up some shopkeepers? That's local thug shit. Beneath us. Watch your mouth. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. Marco looked around the table for support. A few men avoided his eyes, but a couple nodded slightly. We run ports, casinos, construction contracts. We move 20 million a month through this city. And you want to risk all that over what? A few broken windows? Giovanni's jaw tightened. It's not about windows. Then what is it about? The question hung in the air. Giovanni could tell them the truth. That it was about Elena. That it was about his son. That it was about a debt 8 years old, and the only woman who'd ever shown him mercy. But mercy was weakness in this room. It's about respect, Giovanni said instead. Caruso thinks, because we've been focused on bigger business, he can push into our territories. Take what's ours. If we let this slide, every 2-bit gangster in the city will think Giovanni Marino has gone soft. Dante nodded slowly. He has a point. Perception matters in our world. Does it matter enough to start a war? Marco pressed. Because that's what this is. We move on Caruso, his cousins in Brooklyn get involved. Then the Calabrese family backs them up. Next thing you know, we're fighting on 3 fronts while the feds watch with their notepads out. Let them watch, boss. I said let them watch. Giovanni's fist hit the table. Coffee cups jumped. I built this empire from nothing. From blood and broken teeth and men who thought I was too young, too weak, too stupid to survive. And I survived because I never forgot where I came from. He moved around the table slowly, a predator circling. Lately I've been wearing nice suits, dining with politicians, playing businessman. And you know what that made people think? He stopped behind Marco's chair. It made them think the wolf became a dog. Marco's smirk faded. Salvatore Caruso attacked someone under my protection. That's not business. That's a test. He wants to see if the old Giovanni is still in here. Giovanni tapped his chest. Or, if I've gone soft like Marco suggests. I didn't mean. So here's what's going to happen. Giovanni walked back to the head of the table. We send Caruso a message. Tonight. Something he can't ignore. What kind of message? Asked Tony, his logistics chief. The kind written in ashes. Dante closed his eyes. Boss, think about this. The Carusas have been expanding, yes, but they've been careful not to cross major lines. If we hit them hard, we legitimize their push into our territory. It becomes an actual war instead of just posturing. It's already a war, Giovanni said coldly. They just didn't tell us it started. All this over a woman and a bakery? Marco muttered, just loud enough to hear. The room froze. Giovanni moved so fast Marco didn't have time to flinch. One moment Giovanni was across the room. The next, his hand was around Marco's throat, slamming him back against the chair. Say that again, Giovanni whispered. I dare you. Marco's face turned red, hands clawing at Giovanni's wrist. The other men half stood, uncertain whether to intervene. Boss, Dante started. This woman saved my life when I had 2 bullets in my chest and nowhere to go. She didn't ask who I was. Didn't want money or favors. She just helped because that's what good people do. Giovanni's grip tightened. And now she's bleeding in her destroyed shop because some punk thought she was an easy target. So when I say we respond, we respond. Are we clear? Marco managed a strangled nod. Giovanni released him. Marco gasped for air, rubbing his throat. Anyone else have concerns about my decision? Giovanni looked around the table. Silence. Good. Giovanni straightened his jacket. Tony, I want 3 of Caruso's collection trucks located by tonight. Dante, pull the protection we have on any Caruso-owned businesses. And Marco, he looked at his lieutenant with cold amusement. You're going to deliver the message personally. Marco's eyes widened. Boss, sigh. You wanted to know if I've gone soft. Now you'll get to show Caruso that I haven't. Consider it a promotion. The meeting ended 5 minutes later. Men filed out quickly, whispering. Only Dante remained. You're making a mistake, the old man said quietly. Probably. This isn't strategic. It's emotional. I know. The empire could fracture. We could lose territory, allies, money. All because I have a son, Giovanni interrupted. He met Dante's eyes. And he saw his mother bleeding on the floor. And he walked through a storm to ask for my help. What would you have me do? Tell him sorry, kid, it's not good business? Dante studied him for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. No, the old man said. I'd expect you to burn the city down. Which is exactly what you're about to do. Will you stand with me? I stood with your father. I'll stand with you. Even when you're being an idiot, Dante moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, boss, there are worse reasons to start a war. At least this one means something. After he left, Giovanni stood alone in the conference room. His phone buzzed. A text from Carlo. Bakery repairs complete. She's refusing security detail. Giovanni almost smiled. Of course she was. He typed back. Keep 2 men there anyway. Tell them to be invisible. Outside, the sun rose over the city. Giovanni watched the light spread across his empire. By tonight, that light would be burning. The docks at midnight looked like hell. 3 collection trucks belonging to the Caruso family sat in a row near Pier 9. Engines cold, drivers nowhere to be found. Giovanni's men had been watching them for hours, waiting for the perfect moment. Marco stood in the shadows with 4 others, a gasoline can in each hand. His throat still hurt from Giovanni's grip that morning. Part of him wanted to walk away, to let this insane plan collapse on its own. But he was more afraid of Giovanni than he was of Salvatore Caruso. Light them up, Marco ordered. Gasoline splashed across metal and tires. Someone struck a match. The first truck exploded in a ball of orange flame. Then the second. Then the third. Fire roared into the night sky, thick black smoke billowing toward the stars. The heat was so intense Marco had to step back. He pulled out his phone and took a picture. Then he placed something on the hood of a nearby car, a single red carnation in a glass vial. Giovanni's calling card. By the time fire trucks arrived, Marco and his crew were gone. The message reached Salvatore Caruso, at 1 a.m. He was in his club, a grimy place called The Cage, counting money with his top men when his phone rang. He listened for 30 seconds, his face darkening with each word. "Say that again." His lieutenant, a brute named Enzo, repeated it. 3 trucks. Completely destroyed. And they left a carnation. Salvatore threw his glass across the room. It shattered against the wall. "Marino." "Has to be," Enzo said. "The carnation is his signature." "That arrogant son of a—" Salvatore paced like a caged animal. "Who does he think he is? We had an understanding. 10th Street is the line." "Maybe he doesn't care about lines anymore." "Then he's a fool." Salvatore grabbed his phone. "Get everyone together. I want to know why Giovanni Marino suddenly gives a damn about the East Side." Something triggered this. It took Enzo 2 hours to piece it together. "Boss, we might have a problem." "Talk." "That bakery we hit yesterday, Rossi's. Turns out the woman who owns it, Elena Rossi, she has history with Marino. Old history. One of our guys heard rumors she saved his life years ago, before he was anybody." Salvatore went still. "You're telling me I smashed up his girlfriend's shop?" "Maybe more than girlfriend. She has a kid. 7 years old. Timeline matches." "Cristo," Salvatore ran his hands through his hair. This changed everything. A business dispute he could manage. But family? That was blood. Still, he couldn't back down. Not publicly. If word got out that Salvatore Caruso tucked tail because Giovanni Marino was having feelings, he'd lose every ounce of respect he'd built. "Here's what we do," Salvatore said slowly. "We don't retaliate directly. That's what he expects. Instead, we spread the word that Giovanni's gone soft. That he's risking his empire over a woman and a bastard kid. We make him look weak." "And the woman?" Salvatore smiled coldly. "We send her a message tomorrow. Nothing violent. Just a reminder that she still lives on our street. Let's see if Giovanni can protect her 24 hours a day." Elena heard the news about the burning trucks on the morning radio. She was frosting a tray of pastries. Her hands moved automatically, even though her ribs still ached. The bakery looked brand new. Giovanni's men had worked through the night. New windows, new door, fresh paint. Even fixed the oven that had been broken for months. She should have felt grateful. Instead, she felt trapped. Luca sat at a corner table doing homework, sneaking glances at the 2 men across the street. They wore suits and pretended to read newspapers, but Elena knew guards when she saw them. The radio announcer's voice filled the bakery. 3 vehicles were destroyed in what police are calling gang-related arson. Sources suggest this may be connected to territorial disputes between. Elena switched it off. "Mama?" Luca looked up. "Is that because of us?" She wanted to lie, but Luca had already seen too much truth. "Yes, baby. It is." "Good." He went back to his math homework like they were discussing the weather. That terrified her more than anything. Her 7-year-old son thought arson was good, because it meant someone was fighting for them. The bell above the door chimed. A man walked in, not one of Giovanni's guards. He was young, maybe 25, with slicked back hair and a leather jacket. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Elena Rossi." Every instinct screamed danger. "We're closed." Door was open. He walked to the counter slowly. "Nice place. Looks brand new. Must have cost a fortune to fix up so fast. What do you want?" "Just wanted to deliver a message from Mr. Caruso. He wants you to know there are no hard feelings about yesterday's misunderstanding." The man picked up a pastry without asking, bit into it.
Wow.
"This is incredible. You're really talented. Get out." "See, the thing is, talent like yours shouldn't be wasted on a neighborhood like this." Mr. Caruso was thinking, maybe you could use some real backing. Real protection. Not from some washed-up mafia boss playing hero. Across the street, Giovanni's guards were standing up. "Giovanni Marino isn't washed up," Elena said quietly. "No? Then why'd he let us smash your shop in the first place?" The man leaned across the counter. "Here's the truth, Mrs. Rossi. Giovanni's using you. You're a pawn in a game you don't understand. And when this is over, when the bodies stop falling, where do you think you'll be? I said get out. The man smiled wider. One more thing. That kid of yours, Luca, right?
Cute boy.
Smart. Be a shame if something happened because you chose the wrong side. Elena's blood turned to ice. But before she could respond, Giovanni's guards burst through the door. The man in the leather jacket raised his hands, still smiling. Easy, boys. Just having a conversation. They grabbed him, dragged him toward the exit. He called over his shoulder. Think about it, Elena. Who do you trust more? The man who disappeared for 8 years, or the neighborhood that's always been here? After they threw him out, Elena stood frozen behind her counter. Luca appeared at her side. Mama? Are you okay? She wasn't, because the man was right about one thing. This was a game, and she had no idea how to play it. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Stay strong. This ends soon. Gee. Elena stared at the message. Then she typed back. It better. Because I won't let my son become like you. She hit send before she could regret it. The response came immediately. Too late. He already is. Giovanni arrived at the bakery just after sunset 2 days later. He came alone, which surprised his guards. No convoy, no backup. Just Giovanni in a dark coat, walking through the door like an ordinary customer. Elena was wiping down tables. She looked up, and something flashed in her eyes. Anger, fear, relief, all mixed together. We're closed. I know. Giovanni locked the door behind him, flipped the sign. Where's Luca? Upstairs. Sleeping. She threw the rag into the sink. What do you want, Giovanni? To talk. We've done nothing but talk. And every conversation pulls my son deeper into your world. Giovanni moved closer. That's why I'm here. I have information. Information you need to hear. Elena crossed her arms. I'm listening. The Carusas aren't done. Salvatore is planning something big, a public demonstration. Day after tomorrow, 9 p.m., right here at your bakery. What kind of demonstration? The kind designed to humiliate you. To prove he controls this street, and I can't protect you. Giovanni's jaw tightened. He's going to bring 20 men. They'll surround the bakery, make a show of smashing it again, maybe drag you outside for the neighbors to see. All while cameras record it. He wants to break you publicly so everyone knows defying him has consequences. Elena's face went pale. Then I'll leave.
Tonight.
I'll take Luca, and you'll never stop running. Giovanni cut her off. I told you before. Men like Caruso see running as permission. He'll find you in a month, 6 months, a year. And when he does, it'll be worse because you embarrassed him by fleeing. So, what do you suggest? Stand here and let him destroy me again? No, Giovanni's voice dropped. You let me end this. By killing him. By doing what needs to be done. Elena laughed bitterly. You say that like it's simple. Like violence solves everything. It solves men like Salvatore Caruso. And what about men like you? Elena stepped closer, her voice shaking. What solves men who think love and protection come from a gun? Who corrupt their own children just by existing near them? The words landed like bullets. Giovanni's expression didn't change, but something died behind his eyes. You want to know what Luca did yesterday? Elena continued. A boy at school pushed him. A normal playground thing. You know what Luca said? He said, my father would kill you, and he meant it, Giovanni. He was proud of it. He's defending himself. He's 7. Elena's voice cracked. 7 years old, and he already thinks violence is the answer to everything. That's what you've done in 1 week. Imagine what you'll do in a year. In 10 years. Giovanni stood silent. I spent 8 years protecting him from this, Elena said quietly. From you. From your world. And one night, you're back, and everything I built crumbles. I'm trying to protect you.
No.
You're trying to ease your guilt. Elena's eyes burned. You feel bad about leaving. About missing his childhood. So now you're playing hero, Consequences be damned. That's not. Then answer me this. Elena moved so close they were almost touching. After you kill Salvatore, then what? You walk away again? Disappear for another 8 years? Or do you stick around and teach our son how to break fingers and hide bodies? Giovanni had no answer. Because she was right. There's something else you need to know, Giovanni said finally, his voice rough. The reason I left 8 years ago. I don't care. I was supposed to die that week. The words came out heavy. The night we were together, I had a contract on my head. 3 different families wanted me dead. I knew if I stayed near you, they'd use you to get to me. So I left. And I killed everyone who wanted me dead. All of them. 27 people over 6 months. Elena's breath caught. I left to protect you, Giovanni continued. And I stayed away for the same reason. Because everything I touch turns to blood. Elena. Everyone who gets close to me ends up dead or corrupted. I thought if I stayed away, you and Luca could have a normal life. We almost did, Elena whispered. Until you came back. The silence stretched between them like a wound. Then Elena said the thing that broke him. Luca is your son. I know. No, she shook her head. You don't understand. I never told him about you, but somehow he knew. Children always know when something's missing. And he built this image of you, this fantasy father who is strong and powerful and would fix everything. That's why he found you so easily. Because he's been looking for you his whole life. Giovanni felt something crack in his chest. And now he's met you, Elena continued, tears streaming down her face. And you're exactly what he imagined. Powerful. Dangerous. Someone who solves problems with violence. He worships you, Giovanni. And that terrifies me more than anything Salvatore Caruso could ever do. Elena. I need you to promise me something, she grabbed his hands. After this is over, after you do whatever you're planning with Caruso, I need you to disappear again. For good this time. Let Luca remember you as the man who saved us once, not as the monster who stayed. Giovanni stared at their joined hands. He'd made a lot of promises in his life. Most of them ended in blood. But this one felt different. I can't do that, he said quietly. Why not? Because I've been half alive for 8 years. Pretending the money and power meant something. But the moment I saw Luca standing in my study, soaking wet and terrified, I felt it. For the first time since I left you, I felt alive. Giovanni squeezed her hands. I won't disappear again. I can't. Then you'll destroy him. Or maybe I'll save him. Maybe I'll teach him to be strong without being cruel. To protect without becoming a monster. Can you even tell the difference anymore? Giovanni didn't answer. Because, honestly, he wasn't sure. The street was too quiet. 9 p.m., just like Giovanni predicted. Elena stood behind her bakery counter, hands trembling despite her best efforts to stay calm. Luca was upstairs with Carlo, locked in the apartment with strict orders not to come down no matter what he heard. Through the window, she watched shadows gather. 10 men. 15. 20. They emerged from cars and alleys, converging on her bakery like wolves. Salvatore Caruso stepped out of a black Mercedes, flanked by his lieutenants. He wore an expensive suit and a smile that made Elena's skin crawl. Then, from the opposite direction, came another sound. Engines. Multiple engines. Giovanni's convoy rolled down the street. 5 SUVs, smooth and silent as sharks. They formed a perimeter around the block, boxing in Caruso's men. Doors opened. 30 of Giovanni's soldiers emerged, weapons concealed but ready. The two groups faced each other across 50 feet of asphalt. Salvatore stopped walking. His smile faded. Giovanni stepped out of the lead vehicle alone. He wore all black, no tie, collar open, like he dressed for a funeral. He walked down the center of the street with his hands in his pockets, utterly calm. Salvatore, Giovanni called out. Beautiful night for a demonstration. Caruso's jaw tightened. This doesn't concern you, Marino. Everything on this street concerns me. I thought I made that clear when I burned your trucks. You made your point. 3 trucks for 1 beating. We're even. Even? Giovanni laughed, cold and sharp. You think we're even? You put your hands on someone I care about. You threatened her child. There is no even for that. Salvatore's men shifted nervously. They were outnumbered now, surrounded. This wasn't the easy intimidation job they'd signed up for. She doesn't pay. She doesn't work here, Salvatore said, trying to regain control. That's the rule. Always has been. Rules change. Giovanni stopped 20 feet away. New rule. Elena Rossi is under my protection.
Permanently.
Anyone who touches her, looks at her wrong, even thinks about her, answers to me. Over 1 woman? You'd start a war over 1 woman? Over principle, Giovanni corrected. You thought I'd forgotten how to do this. Thought I'd gone soft, signing deals, and dining with politicians. You thought the streets didn't matter anymore. He took another step forward. You were wrong. Salvatore's hand moved toward his jacket. Instantly, 30 weapons appeared, Giovanni's men drawing in perfect synchronization. Red laser painted Caruso's chest like deadly constellations. Don't, Giovanni said quietly. That would be very stupid. Salvatore froze. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool night air. Inside the bakery, Elena watched through the window, her heart hammering. This was it. The moment Giovanni would kill someone in front of her shop, in front of her neighbors, in front of God and witnesses. The moment he'd prove her right about what he was. But Giovanni didn't draw his weapon. Instead, he did something unexpected. He turned to the gathered crowd, neighbors who'd emerged from their homes, drawn by the commotion. At least 40 people lined the sidewalk, watching. All of you, Giovanni called out. You know who I am. You know what I've done. You know I'm not a good man, he gestured at the bakery. But that woman in there, Elena Rossi, she's the best person I've ever known. She's kind, hardworking, honest. She bakes bread that tastes like childhood. She gives food to the homeless. She saved my life once when she had every reason to let me die. The street was silent except for his voice. And this man, Giovanni pointed at Salvatore, beat her, destroyed her shop, threatened her son.
Why?
Because she wouldn't pay him money she doesn't have for protection she doesn't need. He looked at Caruso with pure contempt. So, I'm giving you a choice, Salvatore. Right here, right now. You can walk away. Leave this neighborhood, never come back. Or you can stay and find out exactly how soft I've become. You can't just. I already have. Giovanni's voice was iron. Look around. Your men are surrounded. Your reputation is dust. And every person on this street just watched you get outplayed by a man you called washed up. So, what's it going to be? Salvatore's face twisted with rage and humiliation. For a moment, Elena thought he'd try something stupid. His hand twitched toward his gun again. Then Marco, Giovanni's lieutenant, stepped forward from the shadows behind Caruso. I wouldn't, Marco said softly, pressing his own gun against Salvatore's spine. Boss asked you a question. The betrayal hit Salvatore like a physical blow. Marco had been positioned behind him the entire time. Giovanni smiled. Did I mention Marco's been on my payroll the whole time? Took pictures of all your operations. Documented every crime. Gave me everything I needed to bury you legally if violence didn't work. It was a lie. Marco had been genuinely disloyal until this moment, but Giovanni's forgiveness came with a test. And Marco had passed by taking position at the perfect moment. Salvatore's shoulders sagged. He'd lost. Completely. Walk away, Giovanni said again. While you still can. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Salvatore straightened his jacket, cleared his throat, and spoke with as much dignity as he could salvage. This territory isn't worth dying for, he glared at Giovanni. You want this dump? Take it. He turned and walked to his car. His men followed, confused and defeated. Within minutes, The street was empty except for Giovanni's people. The neighbors began to applaud. Elena stood in her doorway, trembling with something between relief and disappointment. No blood. No bodies. Giovanni had won without killing anyone. Maybe he'd change after all. Then she saw his face as he approached, saw the cold satisfaction in his eyes. And she realized the truth. He hadn't spared Salvatore out of mercy. He'd spared him because public humiliation was crueler than death. Because this way, Caruso would live with his defeat, would be mocked by his own men, would watch his empire crumble slowly. Giovanni had given him the worst punishment imaginable. Life. When he reached the bakery door, Elena spoke quietly. "You should have killed him." Giovanni paused, surprised. "I thought you didn't want blood." "I don't. But now he'll come back. Someday, when you're not watching. And he'll make me pay for this." Giovanni looked at her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. Marco. Change of plans. The single gunshot echoed through the street 3 blocks away, where Salvatore's car had just turned the corner. Giovanni hung up and met Elena's eyes. "Now he won't," he said simply and walked into the night. 3 weeks later, Elena's bakery thrived. The morning crowd was bigger than it had been in years. Neighbors who'd avoided the place during Caruso's reign now lined up for pastries and coffee. Word had spread about what happened that night, how Giovanni Marino himself had stood in the street and protected one woman against an army. Some called it romantic. Others called it terrifying. Elena called it complicated. She worked the counter, smiling at customers, her bruises long faded. The bakery looked better than ever. New equipment, fresh paint, a small patio Giovanni's men had built without asking. She tried to refuse it, but Carlo had just shrugged and said, "Boss's orders." The boss hadn't visited since that night. Luca sat at his usual corner table, sketching in a notebook. He drew obsessively now, always the same scene. A man in black standing in the street, surrounded by lights. His father. "Mama," Luca said without looking up. "When is he coming back?" Elena's chest tightened. "I don't know, baby. He promised he'd teach me chess. Maybe he's busy." "He's always busy." Luca's pencil scratched harder against paper. "That's what important people do, right? They save you, and then they leave." The words cut deeper than Elena expected. She'd gotten what she asked for. Giovanni had eliminated the threat and disappeared. No war. No corruption. No monster hanging around teaching her son how to break the world. So, why did it feel like losing?
The bell chimed.
Elena looked up, half hoping. It was Dante, Giovanni's consigliere. The old man removed his hat politely. "Mrs. Rossi, may I have a moment?" Elena's stomach dropped. "Is Giovanni?"
"He's fine."
Physically, Dante's expression was kind but weary. "May we speak privately?" She led him to the back room. Luca watched them go, suspicious and curious. Once alone, Dante handed her an envelope. "From Giovanni. He asked me to deliver it personally." Elena opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a legal document, a deed. Her bakery, fully paid off. Her building, owned free and clear. And a bank account with enough money to never worry again. Also, a handwritten note. "Elena, I'm removing my protection from the neighborhood. No guards, no influence, no shadow. The block is yours again, clean, independent, free. I've made sure nobody will bother you. Ever. I know what you asked me. To disappear. To let Luca remember me as a hero instead of watching me become a monster in his eyes. You were right to ask that. But I can't do it. Not because I'm selfish, though I am. But because walking away from him once nearly destroyed me. Doing it again, knowing he exists, knowing he draws pictures of me and asks when I'm coming back, that would finish the job. So, I'm giving you a choice instead. Every Saturday at 3 p.m., I'll be at the chess tables in Morrison Park.
Just me.
No guards, no business. If Luca wants to learn chess, he can find me there. If he doesn't, I'll understand. I won't come to the bakery. I won't interfere with your life. But I'll be available for his. If you let me. The choice is yours. It always has been. Gee. Elena read it twice, tears blurring the words. Dante spoke softly. He means it. The protection is gone. He's pulled every favor, every connection. This neighborhood belongs to the people again. And the money?
A gift.
No strings. Whether you let him see Luca or not, it's yours. Elena pressed her palm against her mouth, holding back a sob. For what it's worth, Dante continued, I've known Giovanni since he was 15. I watched him become one of the most dangerous men in the city. But I've never seen him happy. Not once. Until he talked about that boy in there, he nodded toward the front room. He won't teach Luca violence, Mrs. Rossi. He'll teach him chess and probably terrible jokes. Because that's the only part of himself he is left to give. After Dante left, Elena sat in the back room for 20 minutes, just breathing. Finally, she emerged. Luca looked up from his drawing. Mama? You okay? She knelt beside him, looking at his sketch. The man in black was more detailed now. You could see his face, strong, sad, protective. Luca, how would you feel about learning chess? His eyes went wide. Really? There's a man who plays at Morrison Park. Every Saturday at 3-inch, she touched his drawing gently. I think you'd like him. Is it? Luca's voice dropped to a whisper, like saying it too loud might break the spell. Is it him? Elena nodded, tears finally falling. Luca threw his arms around her neck, squeezing tight. Thank you, Mama. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That Saturday, Giovanni sat at the chess tables alone. It was 3:15 p.m. Maybe Elena had decided against it. Maybe she'd changed her mind. Maybe. Are you Giovanni?
He turned.
Luca stood there, small and nervous, clutching a paper bag. Giovanni's breath caught. I'm Luca. I'm your son. I know, Giovanni smiled, something breaking open in his chest. You want to learn chess?
Yes.
But first, Luca held out the bag. Mama sent these. She said you probably forgot to eat lunch. Inside were fresh pastries from the bakery, still warm. Giovanni looked across the park. There, on a bench 200 feet away, sat Elena. She wasn't looking at them, but she was there. Close enough to watch. Far enough to let them try. Your mother, Giovanni said quietly, is the smartest person I know. She said you'd say something like that. Luca climbed into the chair opposite him. She also said if you teach me anything violent, she'll poison your pastries. Giovanni laughed, really laughed for the first time in years. That sounds exactly like her. Come on, let me show you how the pieces move. As they played, Giovanni caught Elena's eye across the park. She didn't smile, didn't wave, just gave him a single, small nod. Permission. Warning.
Hope.
Giovanni nodded back. Then he taught his son about knights and bishops, about patience and strategy, about how sometimes the most powerful piece on the board is the one that protects rather than attacks. And for the first time since he was a boy himself, Giovanni Marino felt like he might, just might, deserve redemption. Even if it came one Saturday afternoon at a time.